So some of you guys might already know I don't have much love for Ellen from The Ellen Show. And I made a video before talking about her friendship with George Bush. And I was basically saying her act of being a liberal is just that, it's an act. She doesn't actually care about these causes or these groups. Even though she is a lesbian woman herself, she only cares about the rich and famous. Now, of course, with the current situation in the world, she has had to move her show and she's had to move it to her house and she's doing it remotely. And it doesn't look as good, but she said she was doing it because she wanted to keep her workers in a job and keep them together, and that's why she was doing it, for the benefit of her workers. Well, it turns out she didn't actually do it for the benefit of her workers. In fact, she hired new non-union workers to develop her show from home, and most of her team found out she was actually recording from home on social media. So let's get into this exclusive story from Variety. So they title it, Ellen crew furious over poor communication regarding pay, non-union workers during shutdown. So crew members from The Ellen Show are distressed and outraged over their treatment from top producers amid the current situation in the world. Numerous insiders affiliated with the series told Variety. The core stage crew for the Ellen DeGeneres Show, consisting of more than 30 employees, received no written communication about their status of their working hours, pay, or inquiries about their mental and physical health from producers for over a month, said two sources. Higher-ups in the production would occasionally answer phone calls, but reveal little, added one of the sources. The crew was further incensed by the show's recent hire of an outside, non-union tech company to help DeGeneres tape remotely from her home in California. When production executives finally did weigh in, nearly all crew members were told last week to brace for a 60% reduction in pay, even if the show continues to air, according to sources close to the matter. Only 4 core crew members currently work on the remote version of the broadcast, added insiders, who find this treatment to be totally inconsistent with DeGeneres' daily message to her audience to be kind. So, in regards to why she did the show remotely, she said on April 7th, I wanted to start doing my new show as soon as possible. The host specifically said it was for my staff and crew. I love them, I miss them. The best thing I can do to support them is keep the show on air. So if you want to know how other talk shows are handling this, Jimmy Kimmel Live stagehands were paid from the host Kimmel's own pocket during the initial lockdown. 2 insiders familiar with the set told Variety. And since returning to the air, ABC is paying their full rates. Last week with John Oliver, Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, DeJesus and Mero have also been transparent and paid the full rates as well. So there you go, Ellen doesn't actually care about her crew, and if she was doing this to keep her crew together, why did she only keep 4 of them on out of a possible 30? Now I'm going to read some comments that shed light on how much of an awful person she is in general, just if you had any doubt from her interactions with George Bush. So Benjamin Simon summed up a Twitter thread. Now he does say it's based on people telling him this stuff, so he says you have to take it with a pinch of salt. So in a list of how awful she is to work with anyway, he said, A, she has a sensitive nose, so everyone must chew gum from a bowl outside her office before talking to her, and if she thinks you smell that day, you have to go home and shower. B, a new staff member was told every day she picks someone different to really hate. It's not your fault, just suck it up for the day. She'll be mean to someone else the next day. They didn't believe it, but it ended up being entirely true. C, when she's in a bad mood, staff members were highly encouraged by upper management to go into her office and do bits to cheer her up. D, she cares about animals, which is good, but so sensitive. For example, someone tried to show her a funny viral video and way in the distance a barely audible dog bark, and she screamed and said, can't you hear that animal is in distress? Why did you show me that? And E, if she doesn't like the monologue someone wrote that day, she'll drop it on the floor and say, I'm not saying a word of that. Lastly, F, someone wrote a joke with the phrase, it's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat, and she screamed, do you know how painful that would be for the rabbit? And then he clarifies, obviously it's just random stories I've heard over the years from people who have worked on the show, and I can't confirm this fact, so please don't sue me, Ellen, or else we'll have to add another story to this thread. So this is a more interesting one from someone's personal account. So Chris Farah says, I worked at Real Food Daily, served her and Portia at brunch. She wrote a letter to the owner and complained about my chipped nail polish. Not that it was on her plate, but that just it was on my hand. I had worked till closing the night before, and this was the next morning. It almost got me fired. She goes on to say, what I don't get is why she would try to mess with the livelihood of someone who was beneath her, that served her, over something so trivial. Why was she so petty? She had to have guessed I was some sort of artist like everyone else in LA's restaurant industry. So a final one, Alison Freer says, was working on a show at Warner Brothers that was next to her stage. Was our showrunner's 50th birthday, catering, grilling steaks outside for a special fancy lunch. Ellen sent someone over to demand they stop as she doesn't eat meat. She's the worst. I have another food one. She polices her crew's lunch orders. Nobody's allowed to eat fish. They would come hide on our stage to eat what they wanted away from her. So yeah, after all of this, is there really any doubt that Ellen is an awful person? And there's a lot of people like Ellen. They pretend to be liberal, support liberal causes, pretend they're social activists, maybe say something bad about Donald Trump, but at the end of the day, they have solidarity to their class, so that is her friendship with people like George Bush and other rich people, but also they are just really, really selfish. Why do you hire non-union people when you can? Because a union gives more power to the employees instead of the employer. She's a multi-millionaire, so obviously she wants more control of the show, and she already sounds like a nightmare to work with. So imagine you're working for her and you're not even part of a union. Imagine how much more she could get away with. Now, I think people don't understand what leftist problems with liberals generally are, but I think this is a good indicator. You have many capitalist people like her who just say they are, socially liberal. They come out and say the polite thing. And I don't necessarily agree when right-wingers talk about liberal Hollywood as like some sort of hive mind, like everyone is the same. But I do believe there is a mainstream liberal train of thought in Hollywood that a lot of people like Ellen subscribe to and think that that is the way they have to portray themselves to the world. And it does work quite successfully for their image in terms of it gets her into the mainstream and people like her. But at the end of the day, she can't hide who she really is in terms of her greed, which drives her abuses of her staff. And she just seems like a real selfish person. So on top of just being really super greedy with either this union stuff or just the way she makes money, she's obviously an awful person as well, an awful boss, and she lacks complete empathy. She has been doing her shows for about 17 years now. And the thing is, I've never personally liked her, but I don't like a lot of these hosts, but I just find them even more hypocritical. People like Oprah as well, who pretend to be social justice advocates and pretend they're on the side of the working class people, of the people who are marginalized. But then they're making an obscene amount of money, treating their employees like absolute rubbish, and generally defending some of the worst people on earth. So with Ellen, obviously, that is George Bush. And let's not forget how awful she was in defending him, saying it's like having a disagreement with someone if you don't like them wearing fur coats or something. When, of course, the Bush presidency was responsible for the misery of millions and millions of people. But again, they don't care. They don't have any real empathy for marginalized groups or oppressed groups or oppressed classes. They just say that and pay lip service because it works quite well on the market. It plays quite well to the so-called liberal soccer mums who love Hillary Clinton. She can portray herself as a generally good person when she treats people, as one of the people saying beneath her, like absolute rubbish. Why would you try and get someone fired for having chipped nail polish? Why would you why would you send someone home if their breath isn't, immaculate? Why would you lie and say the reason you're keeping your show going from home is because you want to keep your staff together, but then only keep 4 of them on and hire a bunch of people who aren't in the union that you normally work with? Again, she's just full of rubbish, and she's not unique, but I find her particularly gross in a lot of ways. And I said before, particularly because she is from a group of people, in terms of gay people, who've been treated very, very bad and still are in the history of the West and America in particular. And she's just such a sellout. And when she got to the top, she essentially stops trying, stops caring. And I don't know what she was like when she was younger, but since she's become Ellen, she has been trash. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you want to find me on social media, follow me at The Cavernacle on both Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, check out my Reddit. That is a big one for me. So r/The Cavernacle for my subreddit, u/Tommy Cahill 1995 for my personal Reddit. Also, maybe check out my Patreon, and thanks to all my patrons, especially the ones who've recently joined. I appreciate all the support you give me. Also, check out my WordPress in the description, and check out my Medium. I've written 1 article now, and it was quite fun, so please check that out. I'll stick it in the description as well. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.